Hey everyone, tonight we're embarking on a truly remarkable journey. A slow, deliberate exploration across vast deserts, towering mountains, bustling marketplaces, and forgotten caravan trails. We're going to delve deep into one of the most profoundly influential trade networks in all of human history. So, I invite you to get comfortable, perhaps dim the lights a little, and allow your mind to wander freely as we drift back, nearly 2,000 years, to a world where fortunes weren't forged in the high-stakes environment of stock exchanges or the polished offices of corporate giants. No, in this world, wealth was measured in the resilience of camels, laden with precious cargo, traversing continents, connecting civilizations. The very name, the Silk Road, is one of those historical phrases that almost everyone has encountered, even if the precise details remain a little hazy. It sounds deceptively simple, doesn't it? A road, made famous, of course, by silk. The reality, however, was infinitely more intricate, far more captivating, and undeniably more dangerous than that simple moniker suggests. The Silk Road was never, in fact, a single, neatly paved road. It was a colossal, sprawling network of interconnected trade routes, weaving its way thousands of miles across the vast expanse of Asia. It was the vital artery that linked the ancient powerhouse of China with the vibrant cultures of Central Asia, the spiritual heartland of India, the majestic empire of Persia, the diverse lands of the Middle East, and eventually, the burgeoning societies of Europe. Imagine, if you will, sections of this network gracefully winding through fertile valleys, dotted with thriving, opulent cities. Then picture other parts, disappearing into deserts so immense, so utterly empty, that travelers could spend days, even weeks, with little more than an endless vista of sand and sky. Yet, despite these incredible distances, despite the ever-present dangers lurking around every dune and mountain pass, and despite the rather independent nature of a camel merchants, driven by an insatiable desire for profit, continued to undertake this perilous journey year after arduous year. The motivation was, at its core, remarkably straightforward. There was an astonishing amount of money to be made. The potential for wealth was simply too great to ignore. Our story, in many ways, truly begins in ancient China. Long before the Roman Empire asserted its dominance over the Mediterranean, and centuries before medieval kings began constructing their formidable castles across the European landscape, Chinese artisans had already perfected the exquisite art of producing silk. Today, silk is, for most of us, simply another luxurious fabric. Certainly expensive, yes, but hardly shrouded in mystery. In the ancient world, however, silk possessed an almost magical quality. It was incredibly soft to the touch, remarkably lightweight, possessed a shimmering beauty, and was utterly unlike anything most people in the Western world had ever encountered. The wealthy elite of distant lands became utterly captivated by it. Roman aristocrats proudly wore it as a symbol of their status. Kings coveted it as a treasure, and merchants, with visions of immense riches, dreamed of the day they could transport it across the known world. For many centuries, the Chinese meticulously guarded the profound secrets of silk production. The intricate process was considered so valuable, so strategically important, that it was protected almost like a state secret, punishable by death if revealed. And, as human nature dictates, when something is exceptionally rare and exceedingly difficult to obtain, people desire it even more intensely. This fundamental aspect of human psychology, this relentless pursuit of the scarce, has remained remarkably consistent throughout history. As this precious silk began its slow, westward migration, merchants quickly grasped the immense potential for extraordinary profits. A single roll of silk, acquired for a modest sum in one region, could be sold for several times its original value in another, more distant market. Each trader, at every stage along the route, added a small yet significant markup. By the time that shimmering fabric finally reached the hands of wealthy customers, thousands of miles away in the distant west, its value had escalated dramatically. Everyone involved in this intricate chain, from the initial producer to the final seller, managed to secure a share of the profit. And, perhaps surprisingly, most were generally content with this mutually beneficial arrangement. The journey itself, however, was seldom easy. It was a test of endurance, courage, and sheer will. Merchants invariably traveled in large caravans, for venturing alone was simply an invitation to disaster. A solitary traveler attempting to cross the vastness of Central Asia faced a terrifying gauntlet of dangers. Ruthless bandits, unforgiving weather conditions, debilitating illnesses, and the constant, gnawing fear of becoming hopelessly lost in an endless expanse. A caravan, by contrast, offered a vital measure of protection. Dozens, sometimes even hundreds, of people would move together, their animals heavily laden with goods. And among these animals, the camel emerged as the undisputed star of the entire operation. These magnificent creatures possessed an unparalleled ability to survive in the harshest conditions, to carry immense loads, and to tolerate environments that would quickly exhaust even the hardiest of horses. Of course, camels, like all living beings, possessed distinct personalities. Historians, perhaps understandably, rarely delve into this particular detail, but anyone who has spent any significant time around camels will readily attest to their remarkable capacity for expressing their opinions. And it often seemed many of those opinions revolved around a steadfast refusal to cooperate at the most inconvenient possible moment. Imagine entire trade networks, responsible for fortunes beyond measure, depending on animals that might, on any given morning, simply wake up and decide they were not particularly interested in moving that day. It was a constant, unpredictable challenge. Yet somehow, against all odds, it worked. The sheer volume of goods, the relentless human drive, and the ingenious system of relay trading ensured the flow continued. As trade expanded and intensified, the cities strategically positioned along these vital routes began to flourish, transforming into vibrant hubs of commerce and culture. Places that had once been modest settlements rapidly evolved into wealthy, cosmopolitan commercial centers. One of the most celebrated of these was Samarkand, a name that still resonates with exotic allure. Located in what is modern-day Uzbekistan, Samarkand became one of the truly great crossroads of the ancient world. Merchants from the far reaches of China, the sophisticated empire of Persia, the diverse lands of India, and the distant Mediterranean all converged upon its bustling markets. The city pulsed with an almost tangible energy. A cacophony of different languages filled the narrow streets. Exotic goods, from shimmering silks to fragrant spices, appeared in every direction, tantalizing the senses. Travelers could encounter people from cultures they had never even conceived of before, fostering an incredible exchange of ideas and perspectives. And, as a universal truth, wherever merchants gathered, money inevitably followed. It was an economic magnet. Local rulers, astute and pragmatic, quickly recognized that this burgeoning trade represented an unparalleled source of enormous wealth. Unlike warfare, which was inherently destructive and costly, trade offered a consistent, renewable stream of income year after year, without the need for armies to march across scorching deserts or lay siege to fortified enemy cities. Instead, they could invest in protecting the roads, ensuring the safety of caravans, and establishing regulations for the bustling markets. Warehouses could be rented, taxes could be levied, and every single step of this intricate process created new opportunities to collect revenue, enriching the coffers of the ruling powers. Many empires, in fact, discovered that controlling these vital trade routes was almost as valuable, if not more so, than possessing rich gold mines. Gold, after all, is a finite resource. It eventually runs out. Trade, however, if managed wisely and nurtured carefully, possessed the potential to continue indefinitely, generating wealth for generations. The mighty Persian Empire understood this fundamental principle with exceptional clarity. Strategically positioned between the great civilizations of the East and the West, Persia occupied one of the most crucial geographical locations in the entire ancient world. Goods moving between the distant markets of China and the bustling ports of the Mediterranean almost invariably passed through Persian territory. Rather than relying solely on military conquest, Persian rulers made shrewd investments in infrastructure. Roads were meticulously maintained, ensuring smoother passage. Security was significantly improved, deterring bandits and fostering trust. Sophisticated communication systems were established, connecting distant regions of their vast empire. The overarching goal was elegantly simple: make trade easier, more efficient, and more merchants would naturally be drawn to their lands. More merchants, of course, meant more taxes. More taxes, in turn, meant more wealth flowing into the imperial treasury. And more wealth, ultimately, meant a stronger, more formidable empire capable of projecting its power and influence across the region. It was, by any measure, a remarkably effective and sustainable system, a testament to their foresight and strategic thinking. Far to the west, across vast seas and lands, the Roman Empire emerged as one of the Silk Road's most enthusiastic and insatiable customers. Romans, particularly the elite, possessed an unquenchable thirst for luxury goods. Silk, with its exotic allure and exquisite feel, was especially popular among the wealthy aristocracy. Senators, powerful aristocrats, and even emperors themselves spent truly enormous sums importing these coveted products from distant, mysterious lands. Some Roman writers, with a touch of moralizing, even voiced complaints about this growing obsession with silk, arguing that far too much precious Roman currency was flowing out of the empire and into foreign hands. And, to be fair, they weren't entirely wrong in their assessment. Large quantities of silver, minted in Rome, indeed flowed eastward, a tangible testament to the demand for these luxury goods. Chinese historical records occasionally make mention of the arrival of foreign silver, much of which had undertaken astonishing journeys across continents before finally reaching its destination. The concept of a global economy might feel like a distinctly modern invention, a product of our interconnected age, but in many fundamental ways, its nascent form was already taking shape along the Silk Road nearly 2 millennia ago. It was a testament to the enduring power of trade to transcend geographical and cultural boundaries. And it wasn't solely silk that traversed these ancient routes. A dazzling array of goods exchanged hands. Fragrant spices, highly prized for their culinary and medicinal properties, traveled westward, transforming cuisines and healing practices. Gleaming precious stones, mined from the earth's depths, crossed vast deserts, destined for royal adornment. Exquisitely crafted fine ceramics, a hallmark of Chinese artistry, moved between empires, admired for their beauty and utility. Glassware, delicate perfumes, precious ivory, revolutionary paper, invigorating tea, potent medicines, and countless other goods, both mundane and exotic, were bought, sold, and traded. Some merchants, with a keen eye for specialization, focused on particular products, becoming experts in their trade. Others, driven by opportunity, traded whatever appeared most profitable at any given moment. Flexibility, in this dynamic and often unpredictable environment, frequently meant the difference between prosperity and ruin. One particularly fascinating characteristic of the Silk Road was the rarity of any single merchant completing the entire monumental route. Popular imagination often conjures images of a lone, intrepid trader setting out from the heart of China and, after an epic journey, finally arriving in the grandeur of Rome. In reality, however, goods typically changed hands multiple times, a relay race of commerce. A merchant might transport a consignment of silk to a bustling market in Central Asia, where it would be sold to another trader. This second trader would then carry it farther west, perhaps to Persia. A third merchant would then handle the next section of the journey, and so on. It was a complex, multi-layered system of exchange. By the time a shimmering piece of silk finally reached the eager markets of Europe, it may well have passed through the hands of dozens of different traders, each one adding their own unique chapter to its long and storied journey. Each one, of course, earning a profit, however small. Each one contributing, in their own way, to the immense wealth and prosperity generated by this incredible network. And each one, probably, convinced that everyone else involved was making even more money than they were. This, once again, is a surprisingly timeless and universally human experience, a testament to our inherent tendency for comparison and aspiration. As the centuries unfolded, the Silk Road evolved into something far more profound than merely a collection of trade routes. It transformed into a sophisticated system that connected entire civilizations, fostering an unprecedented exchange of not just goods, but also ideas, beliefs, and technologies. Religions, for instance, spread across vast continents. Buddhism, originating in India, found its way into the heart of China, profoundly influencing its culture and philosophy. Groundbreaking technologies, from papermaking to gunpowder, crossed cultural boundaries, accelerating innovation. Artistic styles, with their unique aesthetics, influenced distant societies, creating a rich tapestry of shared human expression. Trade, undeniably, was creating immense wealth. But, perhaps even more significantly, it was also forging deep, enduring connections. Connections that would, in turn, profoundly shape the course of world history for centuries to come, laying the groundwork for future interactions and developments. And perhaps the most truly remarkable aspect of the Silk Road is that it achieved all of this monumental feat of global connection and economic prosperity, without the presence of a single, overarching central authority controlling the entire network. No single empire held sway over the entirety of the route. No single government managed every single transaction, every intricate exchange. Yet, somehow, millions of individuals, driven by their own self-interest and the promise of profit, participated in a vast, complex economic system that stretched across much of the known world. It was a testament to the power of decentralized cooperation and the human spirit of enterprise. It was, by modern standards, messy. It was undeniably complicated, with countless variables and unpredictable challenges. It was, on many occasions, incredibly dangerous, demanding courage and resilience from all who dared to traverse it. And yet, despite all these formidable obstacles, it was extraordinarily successful, a triumph of human ingenuity and determination. Because, as history repeatedly demonstrates, wherever people discover opportunities to exchange goods, to share ideas, and to offer valuable services, wealth, in its many forms, has an undeniable tendency to follow. And along the legendary Silk Road, wealth followed not just in trickles, but in an overwhelming, transformative abundance, shaping the world as we know it.